Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm your host, and to be completely honest with you, right after we setting expectations early, yeah, well, you know how we cover a lot of recent sources of the show, right? Well, the text we're unpacking today is hands down, undoubtedly the most creative, inspirational book I have read in years. Like, maybe in a decade.
That is quite the endorsement.
I mean it. It completely blew my mind. I found myself just, setting the pages down and staring at the wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it demands that kind of place.
Right. So the book is a novella by M.G. Brown, and it's called Moon Beyond Us. And if you were just like trying to summarize it quickly for someone, you might call it a surreal, solar punk, romantic fantasy.
Which is technically true, but also kind of misses the whole point.
Exactly. It completely undercuts the sheer scale of what this book is trying to do. It's about these two lovers, Tommy and Victor.
And their connection is, well, it's not just a cute romance.
No, it's a literal cosmic infrastructure. The central thesis of this book, and this is the mission for our deep dive today, is that love and human connection are not just like chemical emotions in your brain.
They are just feelings.
They're actual, literal, ontological forces. Like forces capable of rewriting reality, rewilding the broken concrete of our world, and basically establishing what the book calls soft forever.
That phrase really sticks with me.
It really does. But before we get too deep into the weeds, I think we need to clarify that word. Ontological?
Good call.
Because I know some of you listening might not have taken a philosophy class recently. So, what does ontological actually mean when we're talking about love here? What?
So ontology is basically the branch of philosophy that studies the nature of being, like existence itself.
Okay.
It asks, what is real? What are the fundamental building blocks of reality?
Right.
So when M.G. Brown describes love as an ontological force, they're saying love isn't just something that happens within the world.
It's the thing making you.
Exactly. It's the physics engine. Just like gravity pulls mass together, right? But in this universe, love is the gravity that pulls the raw potential into living reality.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the way the book introduces this massive, heavy concept, it's incredibly disturbing.
It really is. It starts so slow.
It does not. We don't start in some grand cosmic void, right? We start in this super messy, relatable space. Tony's apartment.
Yeah, that part is great.
It's described as this half living room that's just bathed in the glow of a lava lamp.
And the bubble lamp pulses like a sleeping animal.
Yes. The air is thick with the hum of these half-grown houseplants, and there's a bubbling fish tank.
Yeah.
And Tony, who is 20 years old, is sitting cross-legged on this huge shag.
It's just a very normal, courageous step.
But she's sitting there casually quoting the philosopher Martin Heidegger to a catfish.
To a half-sleeping catfish, yeah.
She literally tells the fish, the theme of beings manifests itself by disappearing into presence.
What's fascinating here is that immediate friction. Yeah, between high philosophy and domestic concern. I mean, you have Heidegger, who literally wrote the definitive book on ontology, being, and time. And his words are being spoken to an aquarium cat. And to a love.
It's hilarious,
But
honestly.
it's also making a point, you know. The profound isn't separated from the mundane. M.G. Brown is signaling to you that you don't need to be, like, standing on a mountain to access the fundamental truths of the universe.
You can just be on a cheap carpet.
Exactly.
And then the doorbell rings, and Xavier walks in.
The descriptions here are just wild.
Oh my gosh, yes. So he's older, right? And he has this platinum beard that catches the moonlight, and he's covered in stated tattoos and Greek myths. Right. The author says his voice sounds like the first sip of bourbon after a meal.
Such a specific, heavy description.
And he smells like turpentine and violets and adventure. And he just playfully announces he's brought the forbidden paintings of the gods.
Which really lays on that mythological way of his casual, majestic hangout.
Yeah, because she even calls herself Hades, right? Like she's pouring him down to the underworld of her shack.
She does. And when they finally can actually make love, the narration is very explicit. It says it wasn't desperate or greedy.
Blooming of 2 ancient gardens into one.
Yes. They were careful not to, quote, bruise the oxen.
Which brings us to the inciting incident of the whole story. Because we quickly find out this isn't just pretty poetry, this is literal.
The literal creation of a new world.
Right. So while they are tangled up together, the focus shifts to a bookshelf in the room, and sitting perfectly between a copy of Heidegger's Being and Time and a novelty cookbook.
Fondue for lovers.
Yeah, Fondue for Lovers. Sitting between them is this small glass egg, and it begins to pulse.
When that cracks.
It cracks open, and out hatches this creature. A text calls it the homunculus of night.
Notice the architecture of that specific moment.
What do you mean?
The egg hatches exactly at the intersection of the ultimate existential and Heidegger. The most cliche, cheesy romanticism possible, which is the fondue cookbook.
Oh wow, I didn't even put that together. The high and the low.
The homunculus is described as a dream given hands, and it emerges right from that collision. It's the physical embodiment of their connection.
It's totally unintentional, right? Like, they didn't cast the magic spell.
No, not at all. They're just connected authentically, and this innocent creation is biological.
I kept thinking about, typical rom-com, groundbreaking movie, someone falls in love, and they always say something, changed my world.
Right.
But it's almost a metaphor. It just means their internal perspective shifted. But in Bloom Beyond Us, love is the literal Big Bang for an entirely new.
It's a cosmic event.
Yeah, their private connection births this physical architect, the homunculus, and its sole purpose is to sneak out the window and rebuild the actual crumbling city outside.
Which taps into an incredibly ancient concept, actually. Because while that creature is slipping out the window, something happens in the fish tank.
Oh, really? A fish?
And the fish in Tommy's aquarium suddenly line up in this perfect spiral, and they spell out a word in Greek letters, agape, which means unconditional love.
Unconditional love, right.
But if you take it a step further into ancient Greek philosophy, you have different types of love. You have eros, right?
Which is the romantic, passionate stuff.
Exactly. The physical passion, that's what Tony and Xavier are experiencing on the carpet. But agape is different. It's universal. It's transcendent. It's the love that actually sustains the cosmos.
So by spelling out agape,
The author is establishing a mechanism. Their private eros has reached such a pure frequency that it breached the threshold. It became agape.
overflowed the container.
Exactly. It literally can't be confined to the apartment.
I have to admit, as I was reading this early section, I was pushing back a bit. I was questioning the surrealism.
No way.
Well, you've got lava lamps acting like living animals. You have this literal stringless guitar hanging from the ceiling. Yeah, Xavier just plucks the empty air beneath it, and it plays a note that sounds like thunderstorms in distant countries.
Right.
And I kept asking myself, is this just like a beautifully written acid trip? Or are these bizarre details actually communicating something specific about how we perceive our environment?
It's a completely fair hesitation. A lot of readers obviously know. But look at the mechanism of that guitar.
Okay.
Xavier tells Tony that the Greeks believed every object had a secret song. And he says time is just a guitar missing its strings.
Right, and you only get the music piece of it.
Precisely. So when he plays the air around the collarbone, the stringless guitar captures that vibration and feeds it back into the room.
It's wild.
It's not just random surrealism, it's a lesson in perception. The environment is
It's
waiting for authentic interaction. Yes. When you strip away your preconceptions, which is trying to play a guitar with no strings, you are forced to listen to the music inside things.
Stop forcing the world to be what it's
And let it reveal what it actually is.
That makes so much sense because they're tuning the reality of the room itself.
Yeah.
And the sensory details totally reinforce that illusion. Like Xavier's theory. It's described as smelling like the sulfur breath of stars dying to space.
Such a great word.
And usually sulfur is a terrible smell, right? It's decay or hellfire.
Yeah.
But here, it's sweet. It's the scent of raw earth shifting.
Yeah. Tony wakes up smelling this and feels what the book calls ontological aliveness. He realizes the world is literally about to turn itself inside out.
It turns out it does, because that homunculus is now loose in the city.
Which brings us to section 2. Yeah, this marks a massive pivot in the scope of our deep dive. We've looked at the mechanics of love in a private space, but now the text forces us to ask, what happens when that private intimacy spills into the public, concrete reality of corporate society?
We get to watch the rewilding of the concrete. It's amazing.
The urban transformation is stunning.
The homunculus becomes this absolute agent of change. It's running through these gray, lonely traffic intersections carrying fishbowls.
Filled with dreaming liquid.
Yes, pink, emerald, and ultraviolet dreaming liquids. And it just starts pouring them directly into the cracks of the asphalt. Lampposts turn into wind chimes.
If we take this to the bigger picture, in terms of literature, this section is a masterclass in solar philosophy.
Right, solar punk.
Solar punk is a genre that envisions a future where humanity successfully integrates with nature, usually after overcoming severe environmental decay.
The method here is so different.
That's the key. What Lindsay Brown does differently is the method of her time.
Right, because there's no violence, there are no political debates.
No protests at all. Look at how the homunculus approaches the Grand Bank Tower.
Oh, the tower! The book paints it as this monolithic monstrosity of black glass.
A monument to corporate greed.
And isolation, yeah. So how does it defeat it? It doesn't bomb it, it just slaps the front door with glowing green slime.
And marble steps crack open.
Yellow orchids the size of dinner plates shoot out. And the stockbrokers inside suddenly forget all their profit margins and fall into a spontaneous collective jam.
The mechanism of change isn't destruction. It's a forced remembering of joy.
I wrote down this quote from the book. Soft rebellion born from love's accidental spark.
It's beautiful.
The author suggested that joy and deep connection are actually the most disruptive forces you can introduce to a rigid, decaying system.
Revolution by ecstasy instead of revolution by joy.
And the escalation of that ecstasy is so visceral, the weather itself breaks. We get the plastic rain,
Shimmering shapes of translucent blue, pink, and yellow.
smelling of almond milk, and it doesn't even light Tommy and Xavier. It embroiders them. It literally stitches neon vines across their skin as they walk out into the street.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The way this transformation is written,
Yeah.
it makes the city feel like a physical body waking up to a coma.
Oh, definitely. Like when the asphalt cracks open into rivers of warm milk, it's described with the same relief as blood finally rushing back to the member.
Exactly. Stalklights blossom into giant sunflower heads.
And then the sky thickens. The sky literally becomes an aquarium.
The aquarium sky. The atmosphere turns into this glassy membrane of aquamarine.
And massive koi and squid, like the size of parade floats, are just swimming lazily above the rooftops with air pressure changes. People are waiting for this flooded, warm blue.
But I know the story is from that.
Yeah, I did. I need to push back on one element here. Was it almost lost?
The swans.
The swans. Amidst all this beautiful organic growth, a giant fish, the warm milk, the sunflower, suddenly these cyborg swans arrive. They descend from the aquarium sky with painted mechanical bones, titanium ribs, and wings made of wire. And I was just like, why? Why do we need machines in Silicon Garden? That feels contradictory. Yeah. Doesn't the introduction of cyborgs totally undercut the natural rewilding?
Well, that tension is exactly why the swans are there.
Okay.
Solarpunk isn't about returning to the Stone Age. It's not anti-technology. It's about the harmonious synthesis of technology and nature.
Oh, I see.
Look closer at the swans. Between their titanium ribs, there are small gardens of violets and moss growing.
Right, right.
They aren't invaders. They're the technological guardians of this very fragile world. The text is saying technology isn't the enemy of this ontology. The misuse of technology is the enemy.
The misuse for isolation and greed.
Exactly. The technology's appeared with grace. It's cyborg swans protecting them.
That makes perfect sense, because the last one meant is lands on an altar made of broken shopping carts and code.
The perfect union of the mechanical and the natural.
And the painted bones on its back shift physically display the story of Tommy and Xavier as well. And also Tommy has silver feather.
Both the natural and mechanical elements are saying, we recognize the architects of his grace.
Which triggers the culmination of the whole city's transformation, the orgasm of the orchids.
Very intense scene.
Very. The text describes the orchids literally screaming in pleasure. They bloom with such velocity that the air shakes and petals are bursting out with these quick, snapping sounds.
The entire city enters a state.
And Tommy and Xavier make love on a newly formed moss carpet right in the middle of the street. And the physical climax is perfectly synchronized with the environment.
The orchids explode and the fireworks of cinnamon and ocean song.
It's incredible.
Consider the biological mechanism at play there. The boundary between their internal human experience and the external environment has been completely eradicated.
They're the pacemaker for the city.
Yes. We breathe, the world breathes. The big climax, the world breathes. They become the vital organs of the reality in there.
They decide to name this new era. They reject all the academic names that were kind of given, like the Great Bloom or the Soft Revolution.
Simply called lava song.
Lava Song. It perfectly encapsulates that warm, molten, slowly growing.
It really does.
You know, rewilding the city only solves the physical external problem. Even if your street is a living jungle and the sky is prairie, you're still confined by the limits of human town. Tommy and Xavier realize that they aren't just meant to be passive observers. Exactly. Which brings us to section 3. Professional and domestic.
This is a crucial thematic evolution of the text. Up until chapter 9, the magic has basically been happening, driven by the homunculus between the potential.
Right, exactly.
But now, they must take active control. And the tool for that control comes from a single strand of Xavier's
Single hair floats free, trailing scarves. And Xavier tells Tommy that in ancient myths, heroes didn't just carry weapons, they carried gardens, seeds, and maps in their moons.
Such a lovely image.
And when he kisses her, that humming hair transforms her hand. It becomes the honeymoon scissors.
The blades are shaped like crescent moons.
He tells her these scissors can literally cut reality.
This is the mode of conscious agency. And Tony hesitates.
She asks, why would I want to do that? The world is already beautiful.
And Xavier answers, because there's something on the other side waiting for us.
So she takes the scissors and she physically cuts a 3-foot slit in the shimmering air of the
And Peter screams.
But the afternotes, it screams and repeat. The tight muscle finally be massaged. They step through this cut into an interdimensional space. A garden inside a garden inside a garden.
Sensory details really thick.
Yeah, the smell for textures. The text mentions jazz nature. But the most striking mechanism we find is the weeping mirrors.
Mirror just growing out of the lost like that.
The weeping mirrors are perhaps the most psychologically rich mechanism in character development. Well, a normal mirror reflects your physical exterior, right? But in Logosol, reflection is a biological output. When Tommy looks into the mirror, she doesn't see her messy 20-year-old self. She sees a smaller, brighter version of herself. Collecting lines and galaxies, lines completely devoid of fear.
And Xavier sees a version of himself on Earth, heavy with strength and joy.
And the mirrors are weeping, glowing, electric seeds. Neon green and electric pink seeds falling into tears. And they don't even talk about it. They just scoop the seeds up and swallow them.
Swallowing those seeds is the physical mechanism integrating their ultimate potential. It is radical psychological acceptance.
Right, because the text notes that upon swallowing the seeds, Tommy feels she is standing in herself, but in a bigger self.
Yes. She can feel the slow conversation of the plants. She can taste the starlight. By eating the biological output of their own highest reflection, they cross a point of no return.
They integrate their egos.
They accept that they are now literal forces of nature.
And once they accept that, the mirrors shatter. The remaining seeds plant themselves, instantly growing trees with copper bark and rivers of reflected light.
They've essentially leveled up their consciousness.
They really have, but what I find so brilliant, and honestly what made me laugh out loud, is what happens next.
Oh, the kitchen.
The kitchen! You step back from the cut into their apartment, there are these newly ascended, glowing beings, and they're just standing in a normal kitchen.
The refrigerator is humming.
But it's not a mechanical hum. Tommy opens the fridge door, and instead of cold air and wilted lettuce, she is staring into a literal, dripping jungle.
The refrigerator jungle is a masterpiece of surrealist comedy.
There are rivers flowing sideways inside the crisper drawers.
Violet undergrowth covers the shelves. Translucent deer are grazing where the butter should be.
And gravity shifts, and they just climb inside, falling upward into the lush heart of an appliance that simply forgot how to be a machine. But we have to ask why. Why use these specific mundane objects? Scissors made from beard hair, a weeping mirror, a jungle inside a kitchen fridge.
They even joke about it in the dialogue, don't they?
They do. Tommy asks if every appliance has a secret world, and Xavier jokes that toasters probably lead to hell and microwaves are pocket dimensions of lost socks and lonely sandwiches.
It's hilarious.
It is, but what is the actual point of making the fridge world?
We'll consider the sociology of the modern kitchen.
Okay.
The refrigerator is the ultimate symbol of domestic complacency and preservation. It is a sterile closed box designed to keep dead things from rotting for as long as possible.
Yeah.
So by placing a vibrant, untamed, living jungle inside the coldest, most rigid appliance in the house, MG Brown is challenging the reason to rare.
Challenging us how?
We view our daily routines and domestic spaces as dead zones. But the author is arguing that dormant dimensions of absolute wonder are hiding in your most boring routines if you are just reckless enough to open the wrong door.
Ow. If you're reckless enough to open the wrong door, that is such a piercing critique of how we sleepwalk through our lives.
We really do.
We assume the magic is out there somewhere, but it's literally humming in the kitchen.
Exactly. But, once you master physical space and domestic thresholds, a new problem emerges. You can transform your environment, but you're still carrying the weight of your past. We are still trapped by our own memories in linear time.
Oh, right.
This is where the narrative shifts gears again, moving from the transformation of space to the physics of time, memory, and voice.
Section 4. The physics of the soft forever. Yes. As they wander out of their apartment and stumble into the greenhouse of lost lovers.
Such a poignant scene.
It's dusk, and this building is made entirely of glass panel cones. And inside is this humming, chaotic, glitter-soaked park.
The sensory architecture here is heavily symbolic. Every few minutes, the glitter bomb comes on, raining silver, gold, ingots.
Sailing like bruised peaches in electric rain. People are floating without gravity. You have a boy crying under a disco ball, 2 old men reenacting lovers dancing.
In the center of the room is a massive tree.
Its bark shimmers with the embedded memories of every broken heart and disconnection humanity has ever suffered.
This raises an important question regarding how we view past heartbreak.
Because the tree drops a glowing fruit right in the tree.
Yes, and Toomey and Xavier bite into it simultaneously, and the realization they have completely reframes human suffering.
They realize that every lost love, every agonizing heartbreak, every abandoned kiss wasn't wasted.
It's compost.
Compost! That's a wild word.
Think about the mechanism of a forest fire.
Okay.
To a casual observer, a forest fire is purely destructive. But ecologically, it burns away the dead wall. It creates the extreme heat necessary for certain seeds, like sequoia, to finally crack open and grow. The heartbreak in the greenhouse functions the same way. The author is suggesting that emotional devastation isn't a failure. It is vital input.
It's the necessary fuel for the ecstatic blooming they're experiencing.
Exactly. Nothing in our emotional history is truly wasted if we allow it to become preparation for our ultimate growth.
That reframing is incredibly liberating. And immediately after they internalize that truth, the environment responds again.
The golden fog rolls in.
Yes, and we enter what the book calls Infinite Tuesday. Fog is purple, smelling of fresh figs. Time stops moving forward and simply slips sideways.
The text notes that an hour might last a breath, while a single minute stretches out long enough to contain an entire novel.
There are little shops in the fog, selling moments instead of physical goods.
The suspension of capitalist linear times.
You have a shop selling the first cry of a newborn goat for $2. Or freshly fallen in love for 5 cents.
It's a space where raw experience is the only currency. And deep within this endless Tuesday, we find it.
Marked with dripping neon pink letters that simply say, "Decide."
Inside are mirrors flashing alternate possibilities.
Tommy is a fierce warrior, Xavier is a giant.
But looking at these branching paths, they realize they don't want any of them. They choose the reality they're currently building.
And making that definitive choice causes the ground to part, revealing the well of phosphorescent milk.
The spiral mouth of the world.
It rises from the velvet ground, thick and glowing liquid. Xavier calls it the spiral of the
When they drink this milk, the transformation is profound. The text says it rewrites their teeth into tiny suns.
It's a complete ego-death rebirth. They see thousands of weird versions of themselves collapsing into the present moment.
And out of this intense synthesis, 2 distinct artifacts of creation manifest.
The comet's lipstick and the singing part.
Let's break down the mechanics of those artifacts, starting with the comet's lipstick.
Okay, so Tommy is floating in a mist, and a literal comet passes overhead and drops 2 of those gold lipstick.
Disembodied voice tells her, "Let me speak."
She pinks her lips, and suddenly, her words possess absolute ontological power. She says the word "come" to Xavier, and vines instantly burst into flowers.
Silverfish cut through his veins. Her voice has become an ontological.
I'm so obsessed with this part.
To understand the gravity of this, consider the struggle of any artist, writer, individual trying to find their authentic self.
We spend years trying on different styles, mimicking others.
Speaking words that feel hollow, exactly. But the comet's lipstick represents the culmination of finding her true voice.
Yes. When your voice is finally so authentic and perfectly aligned with your soul, reality has no choice but to bend to accommodate it.
She kisses Xavier's collarbone, and 1,000 birds erupt from trees made of pink light. She is painting reality with her.
And Xavier experiences a parallel awakening. He finds a small, pale green marble that is vibrating with the exact rhythm of Tony's laughter.
He realizes the stone is waiting for him to sing back to him.
Now, Xavier has spent his entire life scratching obscure poems on bar napkins, singing drunk, lonely lullabies in empty rooms.
But in this moment, he realizes All of that isolation is just practice.
He presses the marble to his sternum and sends the marble in.
And pay attention to the description of his voice.
It isn't a flawless, polished, angelic tone.
No, it cracks, it growls, it breaks. But it is fundamentally true.
As he sings, he rewrites the skeleton structure of the world. He turns heavy stones into animals of mist. He paints new rivers across the sky.
When he finishes, Tony looks at him in awe and says, "You just rewrote the bones of the world."
But Xavier immediately corrects her. He says, no, he did.
That distinction is paramount.
Why is that?
Neither of them claims individual dominion over this reality. They're tools. The lipstick and the anthem are distinct. They honor their individuality.
But the creative power is collaborative.
Exactly. It's the synthesis of their connection that builds the house, the sky, the life.
And with their voices fully activated, completely synchronized, they accidentally trigger a cosmic event.
The power of their shared frequency pushes the narrative right off the earth and into the stars.
Which brings us to the final section, cosmic escalation and the ultimate architecture. And I have to say, I thought the Saltburg Swans were wildly imaginative.
Oh, the scale of this final act is staggering.
It's almost difficult to comprehend. The escalation begins with the most delicate, fragile object in nature.
So bend.
Tony bends over a patch of velvet moss and lightly blows on a dandelion the size of a drum. It's the jump. But the seeds don't drift away on the wind.
The dandelion staggers upward.
It begins to feed on the phosphorescent air, growing fat and massive. It gets bigger than Tony, bigger than the hills.
It just keeps growing past the spires of the city, past the floating rivers, all the way up into the vacuum of space.
And when the flower brushes against the first constellation, it sneezes.
It sneezes, and those seeds act as cosmic pollen.
Cosmic power.
Each seed carries the DNA of everything they've experienced. Tony's laugh, Azier's gravelly voice, the glowing milk, the velvet cloud.
The text describes these seeds racing across the heavens. Black holes melt into newborn benevolent suns. Dead, barren planets crack open and expand into flesh-free worlds.
The dandelion hasn't just consumed the sky, it has fed it. It has loved the dead universe back to life.
Ultimate cosmic reseeded. And just as you're trying to wrap your head around that scale, you look up and see a lava lamp.
The moon-sized lava.
Yes, he's not sitting on a table in a dorm room. It is a lava lamp the size of the moon, floating on the velvet sky, breathing in these massive, slow, molten undulations.
And they walk up a bridge spun entirely from software, and straight into the glass.
It's so trippy, but so beautiful.
Well, it sounds like a dorm room cliche on the surface. The mechanism of the moon-sized lava lamp is profound.
What does it represent?
It serves as the womb of the cosmos. When they step inside, they aren't burned. They are surrounded by giant, floating bubbles of molten color.
And inside each bubble is a memory, a dream, an entire potential lifetime.
They plunge their hands into the molten, dreaming heart at the center, and they melt into the current themselves. They become the frequency that allows the stars to remember how to be human.
And the aftermath of that immersion, this is where the poetry of M.G. Brown reaches a level that genuinely makes this the most inspirational book I've encountered in years.
The blossoming bones.
Yes. They come back down the verge of light to the moss. Tony falls asleep. And as she sleeps, Xavier watches her literal skeleton begin to blossom.
The ribs expand and curve to become soaring cathedrals.
Her finger joints transform into bustling marketplaces. Her pelvis blossoms into a lush, safe harbor. She wakes up slightly and mumbles, "I can't believe it."
Xavier whispered,
Chills.
and pause and deeply analyze this imagery. This is the ultimate metaphor for vulnerability.
Okay, break that down for me.
That seven seer skeleton is a common trope for exposing your deepest and darkest secrets. But to let your skeleton physically blossom into a city,
A city that your lover can walk through.
and inhabit, and become the first citizen of, is a staggering portrayal of absolute surrender and generosity. She is making a home out of herself, not just for him, but for the world.
And while her bones are becoming architecture, Xavier's shadow undergoes its own evolution.
These shadow detaches from him.
It stands up independently and unfolds two massive black wings constructed from his old fears, his insecurities, and his desperate desires.
And the shadow just takes flight, launching itself into the sky.
It's permission, isn't it?
Exactly. His heavy burdens are given wings and released, allowing his own physical body to feel weightless.
They're shedding the final heavy vestiges of human life. which prepares them for the ultimate trial.
The spiral library.
As they walk forward into the mist, infinite curving shelves rise up around them. The books on these shelves aren't made of paper, they're living, breathing things.
And his library is hungry, it devours his own stories.
As they walk down the aisles, the books flash holographic images of possible lives. They see a timeline where Tony ages alone in a cold world.
They see a world where Xavier drowns in unspoken songs. Bitter old man.
They see countless realities where they simply walk past each other on the street and never meet. And as soon as they witness these alternate timelines, the books violently destroy themselves.
Shredding their temper. To understand why the library destroys itself, we have to look at the psychology of the kid.
Right, burning the ghost ships.
Exactly. In any long-term role, any major life choice, human beings are perpetually haunted by the ghost ships and the lives they get to choose.
What if I take him out of their job? What if I marry someone else?
The spiral library is a physical manifestation of burning those ghost ships. By devouring the alternate timelines, the environment is forcing absolute radical presence.
It trims the fat of regrets so they can focus entirely on the blazingly real path they're currently walking.
That's a phenomenal way to frame it. And at the very center of this dying library, there's one single book left resting on a pedestal.
It contains only one printed line. Who do you choose to become?
Below that is a completely blank page.
Tommy and Xavier take a quill made of condensed starlight, and holding it together, they write, "We choose to bloom beyond ourselves."
We choose to bloom beyond ourselves. It is the thesis statement of the entire narrative.
In the moment the ink dries, the library dissolves back into trees and rivers. They have survived the terror of choosing.
It's such a powerful moment.
I really want you, listening right now, to sit with that sentence for a second. We choose to bloom beyond ourselves. It's such an incredibly inspiring directive.
It really is.
It tells us that love is not a fortress you build to hide from the horrors of the world. It isn't a walled castle you have to defend against outsiders.
It is a river you are meant to dive into.
Yes, it's a generative force, meant to overflow your personal boundaries and make the world around you kinder, cleaner, and more alive.
Having made that definitive choice, they are left standing under a blank velvet sky, holding the glowing seeds of those written words in their palms.
Then they proceed to weave a new constellation.
They throw the seeds upward, using their hands to paint slow, deliberate brushstrokes of living light across the vacuum.
Tommy shakes a star using the frequency of her first wild wrath. Xavier shakes a pulsing red giant cake of his very first song.
Together they build a spiral inside a spiral, a glowing map of their shared joy.
And Xavier names it. He reaches over, taps Tommy over the heart, and says, "It's called us."
They have literally written their love into the stars to serve as a compass for future dreamers who might get lost in the dark.
And then we reach the final ascension. The mist coils upward from the ground, forming a final spiral pathway to the sky.
They step onto it, rising past the giant dandelion, past the moon-sized lava lamp.
And they dissolve into what the author calls the soft forever.
It's vital to note the structural choice the author makes.
Right, because there's no big boss fight.
No, the story does not end with a traditional narrative climax. There is no final boss to defeat, no tragic misunderstanding, no great war to win.
The climax of this book is an ascension into a state of permanent and generous creation.
They don't conquer reality. They become its seeds, its songs, its tides. They dissolve into the heartbeat of the universe they have fundamentally forgiven.
Wow. Really, I'm convinced this is the most creative, profound piece of fiction I've encountered in years.
It truly is. Bloom Beyond Us is an absolute masterclass in radical imagination.
It takes the abstract concept of human connection and treats it as the fundamental physics of reality. It insists that the world is built, again and again, each time two dreamers choose to say yes to the impossible.
It challenges us to completely reevaluate our own capacity for connection. We are taught to view love as a private, insulated feeling.
And Brown argues it is a public utility.
The love we cultivate privately has the actual power to rewild the concrete of our external lives,
Yeah.
to our personal devastation and the root work for future joy.
So bringing this back to you, the listener, think about your own domestic mundane spaces right now.
Your kitchen refrigerator, your bathroom mirror.
Think about the guitar sitting in the corner, or the heartbreak you've been carrying around for years. The text is telling you that these are not dead things.
They are packed with dormant seeds.
You don't need a magical calculus to plant them, you just need to stop looking your way. There's a series of equations and operations.
You need to be reckless enough to open the wrong door.
And brave enough to swallow the electric seeds of your own potential.
The author leaves us with the lingering image of that constellation, us, still drifting in the sky, eternally humming the memory of their love.
It is the soft forever that humans look up and see, provided they know how to look past the small and common.
So what does this all mean for us today?
It means you are allowed to loop again, and again, and again. Your history, your mistakes, your shattered timelines that are not
And I'll leave you with this one final thought, something to mull over as you step back into your own reality.
Let's hear it.
If the constellation Oops still drifts in the sky, woven entirely from the choices and frequencies of Tomi and Xavier, what invisible constellations are you currently leaving with your own choices?
I love that.
What reality are you painting with your own forgiveness, your own voice, and your own sudden bursts of laughter? What is your personal homunculus currently building in the dark while you sleep?
What a beautiful question to end on. Because the world isn't a machine, and human connection isn't a binary diagnosis. It is messy, it is miraculous, and it is waiting for your specific sulfur breath of the song to wake it up. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep looking for the music inside things.